a nice presentation to share with us all.
Okay.
Well, yeah, the big challenge is to get to it, but this is where it starts. 10 years ago, I built the base of this bed. It's in my spare room, but never actually completed it. This summer, I saw a bed in John Lewis.
Hello, I'm in the meeting room.
Oh, right. Okay. So, but there were a couple of things about it that I wanted to change. The little things at the top I thought were unnecessary. So I was going to remove that. And then the band at the bottom where the rails are coming down, I thought that was too wide. So I made that narrower. At least that was in my design. So the tricky part is the bit that, which I'll spend most of the time talking about, but we'll come to that later on. So the first thing is the shape of the upper bar, and two possibilities is that you could have the two parts parallel, that's the upper of the two, but I thought it looked much nicer if it flared towards the edge. So that's a design that I settled on. And then what you need to build into that piece of wood are the tenons to fit into the vertical parts and a very large number of holes for the vertical rails. Yep. So that's what we had to do. And of course we had to make the shape as well. So the steps are, you start with a plank of wood. You then mark it up with the shape that you want. I use the formula for a parabola to produce the points where the shape was. And so the first thing you do is you cut the convex edge, yes? And then you turn it upside down and you drill the holes. And that's all pretty straightforward. The real problem comes when you have to work on the concave face, because if you put a plane on it, the plane bit doesn't fit. So the big problem was, how do we go about that? There were three possibilities. The first one was to cut it out with a bandsaw. That's in my workshop. Now, I'm not very skilled at cutting with a bandsaw. It took me, I think, 20 years to learn to cut to a pencil line with a standard saw. And I think it's going to be far more time than I have in my bank to learn how to cut with a bandsaw. So what you would do with that is cut it with a bandsaw, and you get a very rough cut. And then with a spoke shave, and I've got a spoke shave with a convex surface, so I can cut a concave shape. However, it's an enormous amount of work.
It's good you had some elbow grease.
You need lots of elbow grease, yes? So that didn't strike me as the way to go. I found in Llangefni there was a furniture maker there that had a machine, 250,000 quid, that would cut, it was computer controlled, and would cut an 8x4 sheet. So that seemed a real possibility. However, my experience with things like this is the first 4 attempts all go wrong. It's something like all the work has been done already on the plank before we get to this stage. So if I lost 4 goes or something like that, it would be a couple of hundred quid, a lot of time. And also, to use the machine, actually it was quite reasonable price in a way. It was £50 with presumably charging for their time. So the conclusion was lots of money.
More expensive than the John Lewis bed.
It would have been more expensive than the John Lewis bed. Absolutely right, Michelin. So I went along to someone who I know a number of you will know. David apprenticed as a boat builder, shipwright, but he spent most of his career repairing antique furniture and things like that. And as Ed will know, and I know, this fella is a real craftsman. I mean, before he starts any work, he sharpens his chisels and planes, not like me, the resolution in the year. And I said, what do I do, David? And he said, well, the best thing is to let me do it. So
Step away from the wood.
5 microseconds later, I arrived with a plank of wood, and on an ancient bandsaw it's a beautiful bandsaw, actually. I meant to take a photograph of it, because rather than the vertical one like mine, well, it is a vertical one, which has 2 wheels, one at the top, at the bottom, his has 3 wheels, so you actually have a triangle, which means you actually can cut a deeper piece. And when David cuts on his bandsaw, you have to use an engineer's glass to spot any differences. Additionally, he produced something I had never seen before. Doesn't look like we're going to see it again. Come on. There it is. There it is. You can adjust the what is known as the foot of the plane, and the shipwrights use it when they're making the frames for a boat. It's a concave surface, but you can also, and in fact, to be truthful, the convex part was also cut with this plane, but it didn't make such a good story. And interestingly, I had a sort of collection of old planes, wooden planes, and actually I had one which was based like that, but it wasn't adjustable. And David looked at it and said, oh, that's a wheelwright's plane, because they are working with a limited number of curves. So anyway, the other good thing about that, if the thing will behave, is it was a good value for money. It took him about 15 minutes, believe it or not, to do the whole thing. Yeah. And you'd think that the £25,000 machine, you could probably write off 2 or 3 hours and several mistakes. So there is something to be said, a lot to be said for craftsmen, and too few of them. Okay, so basically, I had the problem solved for me for the curved piece. And so now we have 4 bits of timber. The top piece, which has a curve with the holes in, you can see. The bottom piece has holes in, but you don't see them because they're facing the other ones. And the tenons are cut. You can see I've put a little thing on them saying front, so that I don't put them in backwards. And the 2 side pieces are shown above. You can see the 2 tenons in them, one at the top of each, and one part way down, which isn't quite so visible. One of the things to note is the line that runs down the middle. I couldn't get, it's beech. I couldn't get beech large enough to make it from a solid piece, or it would cost a fortune, actually. So I stuck together 2 bits of half-size beech and made it from that. But there's a couple of things that are crucial. If you look at the top part, you can see the tenon of the mortise that's been cut, yes? And you can see a very small line that runs down along the middle. And that's where the 2 bits of wood are put together. Now, the worry is that when you hammer the tenons in, unless you've got a perfect match, if it's slightly oversized, it'll open up the wood. So you need to stop that. Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a sketch of it. And what it is, it's looking at the side with the tenon. There's a line, a fine line going through the middle,
Yeah.
along the middle, yeah. And the tenon is obviously the black part. And the crucial thing with this, and David sort of advised me with this, you put in a piece of doling, but you put the doling in at an angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you put them at opposite angles, obviously, and then the wood can't separate. So that was something I learned I learned from him. So that's the thing, more or less assembled. I've just left the tenons out on one side. No, there's one part remaining, which are, I think, what are called the rails. Okay. So what I'm going to do is to put half the rails in. You've got to glue them and then assemble the frame, but without putting glue in the tenons, so that half of the rails will, the glue will set and they'll be done. And then I do the other half. I'm just afraid that I might run into a problem of the glue setting before I got it complete. So that is yet to be done. I've also got to, I've been doing it today actually, finish the sanding of them, and then I have to oil the wood to give it a finish. And the next one, if we get anything, should be I've assembled it just to show how it would look now in its position. Yeah.
It's lovely.
Wow,
Lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. So there we go.
Lovely.
Yeah, very
So that's
nice.
very much thanks to David Ellis.
So we're on speaker.
Yeah, bravo.
Hello, I'm in the meeting room.